Hey, I'm Joe with RevZilla, and today we're going to take a look at some of my favorite motorcycle protection options for the BMW R1250 GS. When you take an adventure bike off-road, minor crashes and tip-overs are pretty much guaranteed. If your bike takes a big hit, you might end up having to recover it from the middle of nowhere on top of paying the cost of repairs. Adding protection to your adventure bike is the best way to avoid all that headache. So we're going to kick things off by addressing a few ways you can protect your BMW's engine from damage before moving on to some general protection parts. Keep in mind that everything in this video is specific to the 2019 and 2020 BMW R1250 GS. If you're riding another make or model ADV bike, these parts will not fit. But there may be some similar options available for your motorcycle, so be sure to enter your bike's info into the bike finder on RevZilla.com to see all the crash protection parts available for it. Lastly, before we dig into protection, don't forget to check out our video where we compare the look and the sound of my favorite aftermarket exhaust for this bike. Okay, let's get started by talking about protection for that unique Boxer twin. The magnesium valve covers on this bike look great and save weight, but they're very easily damaged. A cracked valve cover will stop your bike in its tracks. I added the MachineartMoto X-Head guards to protect the fragile covers from being cracked or punctured. These covers feature a heavy-duty nylon exterior which protects against punctures from sharp rocks. The insides are lined with a softer thermoplastic which acts as a shock absorber to protect against the blunt impact of a crash. This helps distribute the load evenly across the cover when the weight of the bike is on it. Installation was super simple. It only took me just about 15 minutes to get these installed, and it's something that anyone can tackle in the garage using just simple hand tools. The one thing to note is that with head guards, they need to be installed before you put the lower crash bars on. And speaking of crash bars, let's talk about them next. Crash bars surround the exterior of your BMW's cylinder heads and become the first point of contact in the event of a crash. A good set of crash bars will absorb the energy and distribute it evenly to the reinforced parts of the bike that are tough enough to bear the load. For our bike, we started by adding the AltRider crash bars to accomplish this task. The lower crash bars are made from 1.25" diameter stainless steel tubing. They're one of the toughest options on the market, and the added benefit of using stainless steel means that when they do hit the ground, scraping off the powder coating, the exposed steel won't rust. The mounts are all 3/16 of an inch thick, and they're designed so they don't require long spacers to mount to the bike. Long spacers can typically be a fail point in the event of a big crash. AltRider makes optional upper crash bars, which we installed as well. These go beyond the engine protection and help keep your plastics, radiator, and fuel tank safe in the event of a crash. Similar to the lower crash bars, they're made of 1-inch stainless tubing, so there's no chance of them rusting once you start putting them to use. Keep in mind, when installing upper crash bars, you need to use the same brand as your lower crash bars to ensure that they'll all work together, which is why we're going to wrap up our discussion on engine protection by talking about the AltRider skid plate. The underside of the GS houses the exhaust and the oil sump, and a skid plate will protect these parts while you're riding over rocky terrain or deep ruts. The stock skid plate is fine for light-duty use, but if you plan on really taking your GS off-road, upgrading your skid plate is extremely important. We opted for an AltRider skid plate because it's made of 3/16 of an inch thick aluminum that has been laser cut and hand TIG welded. The profile of this plate is designed to increase ground clearance and maximize lean angle while preventing rocks and debris from building up between the plate and the crankcase. It also features a cutout for easy oil changes, whereas the stock skid plate would need to be removed to change your oil. Just remember, when you add crash bars and a skid plate to your GS, it's important to stick with the same brand for both to ensure the easiest installation. The installation of these parts is a bit more complicated. You'll still be able to do this using simple hand tools in the garage, but it is a much more time-consuming job. My best bit of advice is start by assembling all the components loosely and then snug them up evenly after everything's in place. This is definitely not a job you want to tackle the morning you're trying to head out on a big trip. If you've ever ridden off-road with some buddies, you know how much damage roosts can do if you're not the first rider in the pack. I've been hit with rocks fired at me by friends' rear tires that felt like bullets. These rocks, as well as trees and branches on tight trails, can easily damage your BMW's radiators, which are relatively fragile. I chose the RNG Racing radiator guards to complement the upper crash bars we discussed earlier. While upper crash bars protect the sides of the radiators from being crushed, radiator guards protect the front of them from being punctured. They're made of aluminum and bolt to the stock radiator mounts. We like the RNG guards because they offer great protection for the money, especially considering that they're only about $100 for the pair versus $800 for the OEM radiators. I also like that they're easy to install. You should be able to get these in place and ready to ride in only about 15 minutes. So sticks and stones may break your bones, but they won't ruin your radiators. While the plastic handguards that come with your GS protect your hands from wind and rain, they'll do little in the event of a substantial impact. I've snapped off enough levers to know how valuable a good set of handguards can be. If you want to see for yourself, try riding your bike without a clutch lever. Barkbusters is the first name that comes to mind when talking adventure handguards for large adventure bikes. The Barkbuster Storm handguard kit is my favorite option for the R1250 GS because it has a heavy-duty aluminum backbone. Upgrading to guards with aluminum backbone provides the most protection for your brake and clutch levers as well as your fingers in the event of a tip over or crash. Additionally, the mounts included transfer the impact to the handlebar instead of the mirror mounts like the OEM handguards. The Storm guards also feature larger plastic shrouds than some of the other Barkbuster options, which help protect your hands from the elements as well as underbrush on tighter trails. These are easy to install, but they do require a little bit of extra time since you have to take the factory ones off first, so give yourself about 45 minutes to an hour to get the job done. Last but certainly not least, it would be pretty tough to find your way out of the forest at night with a busted headlight. Thinking about the times my riding buds have accidentally roosted me with rocks, or maybe on purpose, having a guard in place would surely give me the peace of mind knowing that a rock can't break my headlight. This is where the Puig headlight protector comes in. Considering the fact that the OEM headlight on the 1250 GS costs over $800 to replace, this little guard is a worthy investment. It features a tough 3mm polycarbonate lens and metal mounting brackets that are finished with black epoxy. Installation is a simple 2-bolt affair, which makes it easy to remove for cleaning, and the mounting hardware is included. So there you have it, an in-depth look at some of the awesome protection parts for your BMW R 1250 GS. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to one of our gear geeks at 877-792-9455 or shoot an email to cs@RevZilla.com. Remember, our gear geeks are avid motorcyclists who are trained to work with you to be sure that you have the right parts and gear for your ride. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel to stay updated with content like this. And don't forget to check out our other video covering all of my favorite exhaust options for this bike. I'm Joe, and I'll see you next time.